Talking to you today about one of my favorite drills. It's called the leapfrog drill. It's part of the favorite part of the game for me, which is wedge play and distance control and hitting those 60-yard shots that go the perfect distance and the perfect trajectory, and you're tapping in for birdies all day. I love that part of the game, and the leapfrog drill is really easy. It's something that any of you can do and add it to your practice routine, your warm-up routine, to hit those pitch shots all the way out to those distance wedge shots. Get a feel for how far the ball's going to go, get a feel for your rhythm for the day, and start to feel comfortable for those awkward shots that most of you don't like at all.
This is the Golf Essentials Podcast with Casey Borg.
The leapfrog drill is super simple, something you can do every single day, and it's really all about finding your feel and your rhythm and working on distance control for those sort of longer range pitch shots and distance wedge shots. I do it almost every time I practice, and it's really, really a good exercise to get in the habit of. And so basically how it goes is you start out, so if you're on the range and you got a pile of balls, you start out by just hitting a tiny little chip shot, like chip it like 5 or 10 yards forward. And then the next shot, you're trying to land the ball on top of the ball that you just hit. So that's where you're trying to pitch the next shot. And when you hit that shot, it lands in the vicinity and then it trickles out another few yards. And then the next shot after that, you try to land the next ball on top of that, and so on. So it creates this sort of line that goes out into the distance until you're hitting, almost a full wedge shot. And when you get to that point, you circle back and do it again in a different direction, So you create another line starting very short, chip, pitch, 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 and longer, longer, longer. And you start to get a real good sense of how much swing it takes and how to control those distances for the short ones. And every shot's a little bit different, and every shot has a defined target. It's really cool. Every now and then you get lucky, and the ball will hit the ball that you're aiming for, and it makes you feel pretty good. So the real thing to think about when you're hitting these shots is, it's easy to fall into this rut of, raking and whacking, right? So you're like rake a ball and you take the club back and you hit it. And then the next one, you just hit it a little harder and you hit it a little harder. And that's really lousy technique, and that won't translate well to the real golf course when you're nervous and you really need to hit a shot. So what you're really trying to do is preserve the rhythm of your motion. So whether it's a short pitch or short chip or a longer, say 60-yard shot, the rhythm is identical. So the tick tock, right? The tick is at the top of your backswing, and the tock is at the top of your follow through. And so that tick tock is always the same, even if it's a little 5-yard chip up to a 60-yard or 70-yard wedge shot. That rhythm stays the same. And the only thing we're changing with these shots to control our distance is the length of our backswing. So if the backswing stays the same, then we're forced to either accelerate the club or decelerate the club to hit it the appropriate distance. We don't want to do that. We want to let the flow of the rhythm of the swing and the momentum of the club build up naturally, where everybody's a little bit different, right? My body type is different than yours. It's different than the next guy. So you have to find your own rhythm, your own cadence, your own pace for these shots, and then stick to it. And ideally, you're hitting these shots where the only thing you're changing is the length of the backswing. If you want to hit it farther, you just take a little longer backswing. And that leads the club to accelerate. It has more room to accelerate, therefore you're hitting it farther, So pitching technique in a real quick description, we want to have our feet a little bit closer together because we don't want a lot of lateral motion, right? We choke down on the club. We play the ball in the middle of our stance or maybe a touch back, right? You don't want to have it too far forward because we definitely know we don't want to hit the ball after our swing bottoms out, but we don't want to be coming down on it super steeply either. So just a little bit back in our stance, choking down on the club, letting our arms just hang real softly from our shoulders. And what we want to do when we make the motion is, and by the way, for these shots, I would recommend a square club face, unless you've got some extenuating circumstances. Some people like to lay the club open, and that's cool, but it adds another element. The loft is changed, the bounce angle has changed, and your alignment is changed. So you got to adjust for all that stuff. If you're doing it square all the time, that at least becomes your benchmark, and you got a good sense of what to expect because it's the same every time. All right, so feet together, relaxed arms, choking down, and when we make our motion, we want to feel like we're swinging the club with what Dave Pelz talks about as really dead hands. We're not adding power. We're not shifting our weight. We're not jerking the club in any part of the golf swing. Okay? So it's really picturing that languid motion as if your arms are just hanging like rope from your shoulders. And it's up to you to find that rhythm that feels good to you. You need to feel like the club is accelerating, but you don't ever want to feel like you're pushing or jerking the club. That's where poor contact is going to come in, So if we could truly feel like arms are staying relaxed through the swing, good rhythm, and we're able to clip that ball right off the turf every time, then we're doing it right. And nothing changes in that motion as we get longer and longer and longer and the shots go further, So that's how the big boys do it. The leapfrog drill is a really cool, super, super simple drill that you can do each time you're warming up before a round of golf, or if you've only got a few minutes. That's a really cool thing to find that nice, comfortable rhythm that you can go with every day. And by the way, that rhythm thing, don't expect that to happen in a single afternoon. I just want to prepare you for that. If you've never thought of some of this stuff, or you've never gone with real like noodle arms, soft arming it, real dead hands is what we're hoping for. Like that ball just pops off the club like a marshmallow. It's not springing off the club face like it is in a full swing. It's like we get a lot of club head speed, but the ball comes off dead, and it comes off almost like dull, but it's spinning because we get that speed, so that's really what we're hoping for, and real soft hands. But that takes some practice, and it takes a little bit of time to feel what your rhythm really is, and then to ingrain that, and then the next step would be to develop the confidence that you have to be able to deploy it when you get on a golf course. So, my last piece of advice, if you're just getting going with this in principle, I would put the ball up on a tee on the range a little bit. Put it on a low tee, but we don't want to be concerned with the lie. A lot of times you're at the range in the dirt and the grass, it all sucks, and you can't find a half decent lie, and you end up hitting it fat or sculling it, and then you get preoccupied with those results and you lose track of what you're really trying to do, which is just find that rhythm, that cadence, and let those arms just stay natural and soft over throughout the swing. So put it up on a tee. That way you're not concerned about making the contact, and then you can focus on the distance that the ball is traveling. And really good to eventually be able to chart what those distances are so that you know exactly what length swing as related to the face of a clock, right? A 9 o'clock swing goes a certain distance, a 7:30 swing, a 9:30 swing, those all go certain distances with all the different wedges in your bag, and you're going to be really, really armed to get the ball up and down when you really need to from those awkward little distances. So leapfrog drill, guys, is killer. and highly, highly recommend adding that to your normal thing. Thanks, guys.